Hey, yeah! Always pumped by that intro, Adam.
I like hearing you sing it every time. You know?
It just gets me going, gets my blood pumping.
It really does.
This is See You, Space Podboys. That's right. It's a podcast where myself, Abe Epperson,
And myself, Adam Ganser,
are the hosts for your enjoyment
Mm-hmm.
of 1998's Cowboy Bebop.
Mm-hmm.
We go chronologically here throughout the episodes.
Yeah, we're not fucking out of your timeline.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here.
Nonsense wizards. Yeah.
And we're talking this episode, session 12. We're getting close to the halfway point.
We sure are.
Jupiter Jazz, which is the start of a two-parter. This is part one.
Mhm.
And next month will be part two for the podcast. But yeah, it's kind of the midpoint, mid-season
Yeah.
of the 26 perfect sessions. Once it's done, we'll be into the 14. We'll be in the second half. And this is kind of like, I would argue Jupiter Jazz is along with like Ballad of Fallen Angels and then obviously Real Folk Blues at the end. It's kind of the set piece Syndicate Spike stuff.
Yeah.
There's about 5-6 episodes, maybe even more, that if you want to just talk about episodes that talk about it, but this is actually like the events happening. And this is a big event. This is where we get another Spike and Vicious clash.
We do.
But this one is Serendipity.
Funny enough, though, if I had to remove any episodes of the show, like story episodes, and still feel like I could get the story, I think you could remove Jupiter Jazz and still.
It's a shame though, because it's got the grit. The Titan stuff is so great.
The Titan stuff's great. I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm saying it doesn't advance the story enough that it's essential to understand what happened.
I think I know what you're saying. Bebop is so good at showing you all those details around the way in other stuff that it's almost like you don't even need to validate
kind of
or
know it
verify
already.
this history.
I would say it's very important for the other part of this show that you don't think of as the story, which is the story of the people on this ship coming to terms with the fact that they have to split up.
Yep.
Like that is what the show's ultimately about. Like they all need to leave at some point, the Bebop.
It's like some kind of transformation is occurring.
Yeah.
Without further ado, let's start our system of unpacking, which starts first with a segment we call What Planet Is This? And you can chime in whenever you want, but this is the plot of it.
Yeah.
Jupiter Jazz Part 1. So we get Laughing Bull, who, if you remember, is like the Native American shaman from the first few episodes. He's talking with his son around a fire, and they see a star fall of the sky, and Bull explains, that's actually a tear of a warrior. It's a lost soul who died in battle on the planet, and he couldn't find his way to the Great Spirit. Ominous beginning for a two-parter.
It really is. Also, every time he shows up, we're dealing with Spike and his story.
There's going to be some form of mysticism that is surrounding the plot lines, like Serendipity led them all to be here. But cut to a syndicate ship, the Red Dragons, led by evil court of ET looking motherfuckers called the Van.
They really are. They really are ETs. ETs in a glowing bottle. They look like they're
perverts.
They are perverts. They also look like they're out of Dune, at like David Lynch's Dune.
Yeah, they're Harkonnen blood.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And they're questioning Vicious, because Vicious has... So Red Eye, which was from like the first episode, this powerful serum that makes soldiers go absolutely nuts and just wreck up the place. Red Eye, it's being sold all around the solar system, and Vicious has a connect on one of the moons of Jupiter in a place called Callisto. And he explains that, well, the buyer only buys from me. My connect only deals with me because we were in the Titan Wars together. So he like knows me and he trusts me. And they don't like that because that's too much autonomy for the syndicate. You should get us the connect and we deal with them. It's not you're just a soldier in this. And so they're trying to take him down a peg. And
they also imply that if he gets too powerful, he'll kill them.
Yeah,
right?
He does.
Yeah.
Vicious is insane person.
Yeah.
But the van sends their boy, Lynn, who's another person from, we're going to learn Spike's past, who's just a nice little boy who's just, just working up the ladder.
Sweet
doing
little
murders.
follow boy.
Sweet little fellow. And they're like, we're going to send Lynn on the mission to keep an eye on you, Vicious, you piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Their eyes and ears, basically. And Vicious responds to this with wonderful edgelord stuff, like, I better bring a jacket because it's going to be cold on the ice moon Callisto. And then his response is, I don't get cold. And then the van's response, oh, that's right. You're as cold as a snake's eye about to strike. And Vicious is so cool. He just walks away. And Van is like, roll on, little snake. And it's just a really edgelordy, like, just real sucks. It just sucks. It sucks.
I rarely say that Bebop could use a rewrite, but your version of that scene
is much better.
Very good.
Yeah. So Vicious is like, and we check in with Vicious's bird because that's important.
Got to.
I guess.
Weird
fucking, Just got a weird fucking bird, I guess.
Yeah.
And then Vicious tells Len, look, you young whippersnapper, I call the shots. And also, which I try to say to people on the reg, if you want to live, you're probably going to have to try to kill me several times. And this is just a weird thing for Vicious to say to Lynn. And Lynn's really like, sure, bud.
Well, doesn't Lynn say, no, I'll be loyal to the death? And Vicious like, you fucking idiot. I told you to try to kill me. Yeah, it was great.
I said try to kill me. Yeah. And Vicious inexplicably tells Lynn that he's going to kill their bosses. Like, he's like, well, I'm going to gut all of those fuckers anyway.
Yeah.
Lynn has nothing to say to this. He's like, I'm the loyalest boy in the world.
But who said
you're going to murder my bosses? Oh, no.
Who's Lynn loyal to is a question.
Lynn's loyal to the van, to the old ET dudes.
I mean, you'd think he'd have radioed that shit in immediately, given that information. But
that's what I'm saying. Yeah. There's a little inconsistency.
Exactly.
But I think everyone's scared of Vicious because Vicious is like, I'm a maniac.
Yeah, you don't even know if he's got two eyes.
Yeah.
You know, like, what the hell's going on over there?
No one knows what's going on the other half of the face.
Yeah.
So if it's cold up in here, meanwhile on the Bebop, it's hot. It's Spike watches Ed play games or hack. I'm unsure of what we're seeing because it's the Cowboy Bebop universe.
I think, wasn't she chasing Faye down? Like, hey, what's Faye up to?
This hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
She doesn't know about Faye yet.
Got it.
That's later. But Ed's in the zone, and Spike says, this makes me depressed. And he goes and finds Jet and to complain about the heat. And Jet's like, we have technical difficulties set on by Faye, who just left, and she left a note. I'm gone forever. Don't look for me, please. Which I thought was a very kind little gesture by Faye.
Yeah.
She left a note and she said, please. But she also took their antifreeze. So now that it's going to take a half a day to fix that before they can get on the road. So she's slowing them down. And as we learn from Jet, reveals not only that, she emptied our safe. So we're going to have to actually go find her and get our money back, which much to chagrin of Spike, who's almost like free at last because he hates women, I guess.
Or he likes to pretend that he doesn't like Faye.
He likes to pretend that he doesn't like Faye.
Yeah.
While searching for Faye on the web, Ed finds a connection with the codename Julie. He's like, oh, someone's having a thing. There's a conversation being had right now that I can see. And it's called Julia. And that sets off Spike. Because if you know anything about Spike, that's the word.
Yeah, that's the code word.
That'll make him go crazy.
Turns him into a jet. He immediately becomes Jet. Just, freaks out, irrational. It's like, oh,
and so it's like, it's from the Blue Crow on Callisto. And he's like, that's where I'm going. So Spike basically runs to his own ship. Jet's like, first off, Julia could be anyone, dude. Like, it doesn't, that's like a super common ass name. Also, you need to help me get our stuff back from Faye. And Spike's like, I don't care about this shit. I got shit I'm doing now. And Jet sets the ultimatum. Very Jet thing to do.
Yep, very Jet.
This is one step too far, Spike. If you leave now, don't come back. You're not welcome. Spike's like, hey, it's your call, pal. You own this ship. And Spike kind of throws something at him, which shows that he's hurt because he shows that he tries to hurt Jet.
Yeah, a little
which
bit.
Is not like if he really didn't care, he wouldn't say this, but he does say this, which he hurts Jet with a comment about, I didn't know I was living like essentially like with your roommates. He calls him not your roommates, not my roommates. or his roommates, I should say. And Spike was kind of allying himself as I was never really a part of the crew. And that's kind of done to hurt Jet. And Jet tries to make him feel it back. And he was like, oh, I didn't know I was living with an asshole this whole time, basically. Spike sets off to Callisto and he finds the Blue Crow Jazz Bar, or he's in search of it. We get that sweet, sweet saxophone. Goodnight Julia is the name of the track if you want to look it up.
Mm-hmm.
But it rips, dude. It's a soulful sax line.
We get more of the backstory of it in the next episode too.
It's kind of going out of phase. Also, it's trying to represent how many people are getting to the same place, but they're on different parts of that journey. Because it turns out Faye is literally sitting at the bar in the Blue Crow. Right. She has nothing to do with all these hijinks, nothing to do with Julia. You know, it just serendipitously, she went to a bar and is listening to the saxophone man, who we're going to learn is named Gren and is a pivotal part of the vicious Spike plot. Spike does this.
I would also say in some ways, Faye, well, I mean, Gren kind of nails her subconsciously pretty quickly in this episode.
We're going to get into that, why she's here even.
But Faye is, without somebody annoying Faye is a moth to a flame for anybody that will care about her. Anybody. Like, she's gotta find it.
Well,
you know?
We're going to unpack that because I'd say that's true and not true as much as she likes to have the upper hand in those situations.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Spike does this typical man on the street, like Columbo detective shit, where he's like, it's always a montage, and he's wearing his red parka this time. Yeah. And he keeps asking people about Julia, and the first person he arrives and sees and talks to is a car smasher?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. A car hammersman.
Yeah, hammersmith. Yeah. And he's like, no, check that street, I don't know. And then he runs into a sex worker. Who she says, you know, I don't know anything about that because like there's no women, which is we're gonna learn about that in just a sec. Yeah. But she's like, talk to Gren. He's the saxophone player at the Blue Crow. I've seen him with women before. Yeah. And so, like, now Spike's on like the main path. He's now going to where he needs to go see this Gren guy, who's you know, Faye's already talking to. Yeah.
I think it's fair to say, I mean, like, I don't want to just like totally leave this in the dust. The show does a pretty mixed job dealing with trans women in this episode. Like that.
Yeah, for 1998, I say I would go to bat for its heart is in the allyship.
I would too.
Corner.
I would too.
For 98, this is crazy, especially in Japan.
Yeah. No doubt. I'm not here to shit on it. But it's not for our audience who's going to watch it maybe for the first time. There's
a lot that is left to be desired. Yeah. It's almost always a joke. Spike's always like, because the sex worker is like, I'm Julius. Don't you want to be with me, baby? Clearly, they give him. They give her a stubble and stuff like that. And Spike's like, oh, no, you know, and doing little faces and stuff like that. It's stuff like that. That's the least.
But then later,
palatable.
With Gren, they're a lot more embracing of the ambiguity in a way that's very curious.
Talk about that primarily, I think. Yeah. Cuts to Gren, who's in the bar, hitting up Faye. Yeah. Mentions, look, I'm a safe guy. Like, I'm not interested in women even. And you're cold, you're sneezing. Let me give you my coat. And he mentions that, by the way, you should watch yourself because this whole town is men. This is just a fixture of Calypso. No, Callisto. Yeah. Callisto. There's no women on the world, and so you should be careful because while I'm not into what you got, like there's a lot of men here, and Faye's like, bring it on, I don't give a fuck. And then we kind of get revealing, oh, she came here intentionally to beat the fuck out of some men. Right. So that's an interesting look into Faye, and this makes Julius's comment from the last scene about seeing Gren with women to make more sense. A woman is a rare occurrence on Callisto. Yeah. Spike's asking around for Gren, leads to a bunch of gang goons, local goons, who are following him now because they think he's vicious, because they heard about this off-worlder Vicious who's got a ton of money, who's come to see Gren to buy some of this red eye, right? Yep. And since you use the code word Julia and you're looking for Gren, our intelligence makes us think that you are vicious. So they kind of confront him.
So now me and my sand people are gonna beat you up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They look like sand people. I just need you to see that.
Like a bunch of Banes.
Yeah.
They're a bunch of Banes because they can't breathe in the atmosphere, I guess.
Well,
who knows? That one guy can.
Yeah, the one guy.
Everyone else can.
Yeah. I think they just thought it was cool. I think they were like,
these masks
are
is
awesome.
our gang. This is how we look now.
We're undefeatable in these masks.
Yeah.
That's what they came to. Anyway.
So we kind of learned that Julie is kind of a call sign for the Red Eye deal. But before that, Spike gets angry at being called vicious by this gang leader. He's like, "You call me vicious? I'll show you what vicious means."
Yeah, when you
which
say
is
angry, I mean he flips
he's
out.
He's what Vicious describes. You're like a rabid dog in a cage, kind of.
Yeah.
That's how he acts. He like punches a pipe and explodes all over these dudes.
He beats the hell out of these men. Like,
I think it's so funny too that he's like, "You call me vicious? I'll show you vicious." So he's like, "So you're angry at them for being right?"
Yeah, you proved them right, sir. And he grabs your face for even saying that.
He grabbed your whole face.
He crunches your face with his hands, like he's like squashing a melon or something. It's like, damn.
And we see the real Spike, or a form of Spike, an earlier version of Spike regressing, because Julie is in the mix, man. He can't help himself when Julie is in the mix.
I would argue that's actually one of the most important things about this episode, that you see previous Spike a little bit.
Yeah, you need to see him being an animal.
Yes.
Because we've heard it, Vicious has referenced it, we haven't seen it.
Yeah.
At another bar, Jet arrives, and this seems auxiliary, but it'll be more important to note when we're talking about the themes of each of these people in the later section. Also, we see in this bar the three dudes in the background. Do you see that? The little old man chorus?
That's fun. I didn't see him. Okay.
Yeah, they pop up every now and then. The three guys are like, "Oh, seems that way," or no, they don't do the seems that way. They go like, "Back in 2025, I was a part of this thing called the Proud Boys." Or whatever. They have little funny anecdotes like that. They're a bunch of Gen Z racist or some shit.
I like that they travel to different planets and reminisce. They never have jobs.
They just always travel in different places, always in bars.
Yeah.
The bartender apologizes. I love this touch. So the important part of this scene is that Jet arrives and he orders a drink called a Cowboy, which is a known drink of bounty hunters. And he's like, no, I want a different drink. Because the bartender apologizes for thinking that Jet is a bounty hunter. He's like, "You're not a bounty hunter." And that depresses him. And we get it twice. It's this kind of thing where Jet's like, "I don't feel like I am who I am," a little bit with
I've lost the
my
joy.
people around me.
Yeah.
Like people can see on my face I don't have that joy or whatever, and I hate that because I hate that that's how much power Spike has over me. If we're talking about the subconscious,
also the bartender decides, like without a lot of evidence, you're not a bounty hunter. Thank God.
You would be an idiot.
I have so much bounties on me, bro.
Yeah, I got so many bounties.
Holy shit, I worth so much money.
It would be crazy if you were a bounty hunter because you could get so much money if you had friends.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's so great. But just funny. Then Hot Shot comes on. Yeah. And now we know why they're watching Hot Shot, because that guy's worried about getting bounties. Yeah. But we learn that Gren is now, like, the ISSP has learned about him. So they're like, he's an escaped convict and he's up to selling red eye. So his bounty is tripled. Automatically, Jet tries to, like, radio Spike, but he catches himself doing it, knowing that bridge has been burned. Cut to Faye. We realize that she came to the blue, like the planet Callisto, and went to the blue crowbar, probably because she just wants to beat up men, because she confides and speaks to an empty alley at first. She's like, "Man, I thought you guys were I thought it was happening quicker. Right. You guys are gonna attack me." And then a bunch of people come out of the woodwork, and she's like, "Finally," and she puts on her ass kicking gloves. But just as she's about to squash like 8 dudes, by the way, is the same gang that Spike beat the shit out of.
They didn't learn shit. Still in the masks, the whole thing.
They still beating the shit. That Gren steps out with his saxophone case and he beats the shit out of.
He desperados
which
them.
I'm sure Faye was like, "Fuck that," but Gren has also been described as a very beautiful person.
That's the thing, Abe.
People were like,
she doesn't do that. She kind of lets him lead, which is sort of that's another interesting insight into Faye.
She finds him very interesting. I would say, and so he takes her back to his apartment, and Gren questions why Faye like even came back. He's like, I know I said I'm not interested in you, but like you're playing it fast and loose, man. You're clearly just trying to get caught up in something. And she fiddles with a little music box, which in Bebop we know is a symbol for frozen time, and typically means that we're going to see a memory or someone dealing with the fallout of one.
It's a sacred artifact in this show, if there was one.
In the show, it always represents that. And Faye goes on that she's not good in groups, alluding to the Bebop guys, obviously. Guys fight over her. She doesn't like getting involved with other people's baggage. She likes being alone. Basically, when I'm dealing with others, it's nothing but trouble. I get nothing out of it, so it doesn't matter if I'm there or not, which I love to unpack just a little bit right now and just be like, notice the victimness in that.
Oh, yeah.
Like how stressful that must be for her, who she feels like she's doing the avoidance kind of deal, right? With all of the people around her, but her logical conclusion, the impact of what the statements and all the things that she believes is happening to her, leads to, I feel like I'm not there. You know, what does it matter if I were there? It's such a statement of like she has very low self-esteem, I think.
I think that's true, but also Gren punctures the self-deception immediately.
Turnbuckles, dude, drops to the mat.
And he's like,
God.
by God. JR was there calling it. Like he immediately is like, well, you were afraid of being abandoned, so you abandoned him first. You know, and she's like, well, that's fucked up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she's like, you're
boom. It gets her so hard. I love her response
because it's like she's like, you're a strange person, but does not affirm or deny his claim, which is absolutely right.
Yeah, instead, you saw it a mile away. She has a lot of self-deception, and I think he punched right through it.
Gren pulls off like the coolest maneuver, which is. So I just dropped that wisdom bomb on you. Anyway, do you need anything? Yeah. I'm gonna go take a shower. Yeah. I'm gonna go take a shower. So
Well, that's another.
Don't look.
That's another funny thing where he's like, "Do you want to take a shower?" She's like, "Too many prying eyes,
peeping toms,
peeping
like
toms."
you.
Yeah, and he's like, "Okay,"
which is once again deflection. Right. Is once again she being like, I'm preparing for the worst case scenario because the worst case scenario is always happening to me.
Right. He's like, I'll go. And he's like, but you got to promise not to spy on me. And she's like, I do not promise that.
I do not promise that. Yeah. Which is like, do as I say, not as I do. Which is funny. And Faye, so he's getting all lubed up and showered. Faye looks at his picture wall of old soldiers and family members. It's very sweet until she notices one that looks like Vicious, and she goes, Vicious. And then a phone call occurs, and the phone message is left by Vicious. That's convenient.
Perfect.
Outlining the deal. They're like, hey, you want to... By the way, I love how good they are at crime.
Yeah.
Hey, man, is your connect for that red eye? Can I get the drugs for some
Here's
money,
the amount
dude?
I'm going to pay in the place.
Here's where I'll be. Just call me back. Again, my number is, and this is Vicious. And Faye freaks out, so she grabs a gun. And I love where this intercut stuff happens, where it cuts to Spike walking up on Vicious. Spike chastises Vicious for sullying Julia's name with all this this drug mule business. And they move to fight, though the boy Lynn, steps in front of Vicious, and he's like, I won't let you shoot like my dude Vicious. And Spike's like, I'm not gonna kill you, Lynn, you're a good guy. So he holds fire. Cut back to Faye with a gun, creeping into Gren's bathroom, opening the shower. Faye is surprised by Gren's breasts, wide hips, and male genitalia. Gren approaches her and kind of pushes her against the wall in a very off-putting way that she's like feels very powerless. And she's like, what are you? And he goes, I am both at once and neither one. Cut back to outside in the snow. Spike is like, just get out of the way, buddy. Like, fucking, I gotta kill this Vicious. And Lynn's like, nope, I am more loyal to like the Syndicate than I am to being a friend of yours. So shoots Spike in the chest, and they leave Spike laying in the snow. In a beautiful top-down shot of him in his red parka. It's pretty famous. To be continued.
A fascinating choice for Vicious to make, to just leave him there. I would argue Vicious, like Faye, like many of them, really, really wants to have the most cathartic version of their relationship wrapping up. So like
Right.
anything that intrudes on that, he's like, nah, Spike and I'll get back to this some other time. You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
and I'm not even belittling the show or filling in details that I think are untrue. I legit think that Spike and Vicious both understand that Lynn being there kind of fucks up their deal. So like,
yeah,
all right,
they could fight it out.
Yeah.
They'd rather both fight it
yeah,
out.
they want it. Yeah, they absolutely want it.
That's why the van put him in there.
100%.
Anyway, let's move to our next segment, which is called Pushing the Sky. So in this one, Adam and I are both going to dissect one aspect of the session's execution that we thought was particularly well done. I've spoken for a bit. It's time for Adam.
You've
to speak.
enlightened us with your gorgeous tenor.
Thank you.
Yeah, this one I found actually had less unique stuff in it visually than a lot of these other episodes. But the one thing I noticed they were doing a ton is really tight close-ups of eyes. Really tight frontal close-ups of eyes. A thing that anime likes to do, in part inspired by the Italian westerns, because I feel like that's where we get those sort of standoffish close-ups. But what's interesting about Cowboy Bebop is that the creators know that you don't get the same emotions from an eye that's drawn that you do from actually watching a human eye on film, right? Like if I had the same shot in a film, I would know what the character was feeling because it would be, that's the point of those shots, right? It would give me the intensity or the fear or the, excitement or whatever it is.
You'd be able to really read the nuance.
Exactly. Whereas in anime, I think that sometimes actually those close-ups serve to obfuscate who the character is rather than actually draw you in. Specifically, I think the scene between Gren and Faye, where they're both kind of putting out into the world a disingenuous version of who they are. Like when they're comparing notes, we're getting a lot of sexualized shots of Faye and a lot of tight close-ups that sort of are meant to evoke the idea of them forming an intimate connection, but it's very clear that isn't really happening. Like they're both sort of playing each other.
Yeah, Gren is like not interested.
Gren's not interested. Also, Faye's not really interested, I would argue.
I think she's playing a role, yeah.
Yes, they're both projecting. And so in this interesting way, the creators of this format, the filmmakers in this format, know that they can actually do the film imitations of an emotional connection and make you feel like it isn't happening actually. Right? So it achieves something different than if it was being done in live action. And I think that's really cool to watch them both know the cinematic language that exists in film and then know the particularities of their medium.
Failures, or not the failures, but the limitations of animation
and
sometimes.
Work with those in a filmic way for the opposite effect.
I was going to say that because they have to find other ways to get you to be on board with what they're saying. And something that I noticed is, you're right, they have a lot of close eye shots that are almost like
keeping you out.
You're looking at nothing.
Yes.
You're looking at like, I'm waiting for your response. And almost always when the tone changes, especially, you just look at the way in which the characters move and the speed at which they move. Gren is just this like fucking mechanical crane,
very much
slowly oozing, like you cannot stop him.
That's right.
And she, who has been self-confident and kind of sexualized and like in control, like a ballerina is in control of her body, now becomes kind of like a shaky little mess when he kind of takes top.
But
of
again,
her,
I think the reason for that is in part because he does understand her. See, and
he knows that we're good.
Yeah, we're good, and also you're full of shit. Like he knows both those things in a way that makes her vulnerable, not physically vulnerable. I don't think Faye is physically vulnerable hardly ever in this series.
No, she's not. She doesn't need. She can kick anyone's ass.
Except for Vicious, right? Like, and
probably
the Syndicate, But otherwise, she seems pretty capable. I think it's the emotional vulnerability that his directness, but also he is not easy for her to understand. Like he is obscure to her. So I think that's part of it. But again, I think that filmically, it works in the way that close-ups of eyes do in actual cinema, where we expect the intimacy. So they are working on that expectation we have, but because they don't supply it, we get the feeling of like, what is it really? Like, what's really behind it? So it actually gives us that unique emotion that only a drawn version of a close-up can give you. I love that about it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's well put off. It's well done.
Thank you.
For sure. I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of some of the scenes relating to that, because I want to talk about how this session is unique in terms of its editing in the climax and the cliffhanger.
Mhm.
Obviously, there's only 2 other episodes that even have a cliffhanger really necessary as a part of the thing. And something that Bebop excels at is editing for emotional resonance, right? This is something editors talk a lot about, where you can be technical or you can be emotional with your edit. And often even music is used, and especially with this OST like this one, they can just put on a track and immediately you're like, all right, this montage, I know exactly what this is because the music is interesting. But basically, if you were in a montage in Cowboy Bebop, it's almost always interesting, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, they're the best.
And in
at
this
it.
case, we kind of do both music and an editorial strategy. And because we have that wonderful saxophone line that draws all 3 kind of plots together from Goodnight Julia, and we follow 3 people on Callisto. That's the whole idea. Notably, Faye and Spike, we notice how they go through the same emotional moments, right? We see them learning more about the story behind Gren, the need for kind of a distracted confrontation, and the resolutions into the cliffhanger are very similar. I feel like I can draw a parallel too. I love the cuts from Gren's apartment and Spike approaching Vicious. If you look at those, we get the phone call, which emotionally alters Faye's scene. And just at that time, we see Spike finding Vicious in the snow. So both of their guards go up from 0 to 100 in an instant.
Yeah.
And it's followed when it kind of feels like one of those things like Game of Thrones Red Wedding. Once you know, it's like this shit's about to pop off, and everything up to that point was not leading you to the thought that is what I was going to do. We get Gren's trans identity reveal, along with Lynn's loyalty over friendship reveal. So that both catches Spike and Faye off guard, because it gives their enemy the upper hand, though we'll learn in both cases, Gren and Lynn are not their enemies.
Right.
Spike and Faye kind of stumble into their plots. There's a serendipity involved about they happen to find Gren, they happen to find the path to Vicious, all on this blue crow in Callisto. So if you look at the editing though, and every vertex between when we change gears from one character to another, notice that they're in the same kind of anxiety, or they're in a moment of understanding, or they're deflecting, or they're confused by something, or ultimately they're surprised by something, which is how we end. That's not what their stories are one-to-one. They're not going through the same transitions of grief or whatever you want to call it. Bebop just chooses those parallel moments, and it makes the editing feel so polished and advanced because it's just about crafting a story where they're on a similar journey. It emphasizes those similarities, and it feels like when we cut from one scene to another, it's not a and then this happens. It's a therefore this happens kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. I love it.
It's very
great
good.
Episode.
They're very good at drawing connections between crosscuts. I think maybe the best I've seen in a show. Pretty high up there.
Pretty high up there.
Yeah.
Getting in and out of montage just in between scenes, it's you have to just watch it and go, I've never seen something like this before.
Well, they're also very adventurous in their choices. Cowboy Bebop doesn't make standard narrative filmmaking choices almost ever. It's always kind of a bold, surprising move. So the fact that they managed to do such gentle, delicate storytelling given those techniques is also very surprising. It really is a masterclass. And I just wanted to reaffirm what you were saying there.
Let's get to the next section. We're going to talk about the themes and the plot resonances of this particular episode in regards to the whole. I call it, and you call it, You're gonna carry that weight.
Although I would say the weight on in this episode, the weight is on the second half. Like, it gets pretty heavy in the next half.
Yeah, the cliffhanger doesn't ramp up as much as suddenly is upon you.
Yeah. I'll tell you the two parts of this that really interested me, and I see if you agree or not. Why does Faye get swept up with Gren? Is a question that interests me, and a little bit sort of like, what is Jet's life without Spike? Like, what is Jet realizing without Spike there? Right?
Well, I'll say that first one, or the second one with Jet and Spike. I think the line that we're kind of forced to look to in this particular session is, "I never did understand you right until the very end," and then Spike responds, "I don't understand either," which is another way of saying hurt people, right?
Yes. I particularly am interested in, well, first of all, every time Spike is going to deal with the Syndicate stuff, that's the moment Jet's like, "Don't come back. Like, there's nothing here. Like, I can't help you. Don't come back." Right? Like, that's kind of the only time that Jet ultimatums him, is whenever Spike's about to deal with his past. Jet's like, "You do this shit, don't expect to come back." Right? And that, I think, is interesting. Or like, I'm not coming to help you.
Of people.
Yeah. Well, I also think that Jet in some ways wants Spike to remain in stasis because Jet is more dependent on Spike than vice versa.
Yeah,
ultimately.
He doesn't want to admit it, but ultimately they all need a family.
Jet needs the family, I think, a bit more than Spike does. If I had to,
well, at this
total
point,
it up.
And yes. The answer is yes, because you're supposed to kind of behave that these things are constantly in flux, but we know where this is heading. Spike is already a dead man.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that hurts Jet to sort of see that. And it comes out every time the Syndicate pops up. So another interesting aspect of it, before we can move on to the Faye thing, which I think is the most interesting question, is that when Jet doesn't have Spike, Jet no longer stands out as a bounty hunter or a cop. You know what I mean?
So that's why he's uncomfortable with that bartender. He's like, stop calling me stuff and not calling me stuff. I don't like any of it.
In this strange way, like, Spike is a contrast for Jet that Jet likes.
Right.
Jet likes the fact that compared to Spike, he feels like a sore thumb, and he enjoys the sort of obviousness of that. And once that's gone, he loses his unique identity. Because Jet's identity is better served by contrast.
He's also a hen mother. He needs someone to take care of.
Yeah, it's both things. Also, I think Jet enjoys the difficulty that working with Spike brings. There's a bit of a challenge there. Like, it's not an accident that Jet is trimming a bonsai tree, and I think it's Ballad of Fallen Angels, when he's like trimming a bonsai tree and not doing a very good job without Spike, because Jet needs the tension of Spike to be good at, like, doing this, artistic work that he's doing. And I think the same is true of him capturing a bounty. He needs that sort of chaotic destruction that he has to work against to do his best work. And be his best self in a strange way. And I enjoyed that the episode drew that contrast more clearly. So, Faye and Gren. Tell me your theory on why Faye goes along with it with Gren instead of fighting Gren like she does any other dude in the street. What's your theory on that?
Like, from the get-go, or from the moment of, oh, you're Vicious's agent, and then I'm not going to kill you? Because those are two different moments.
There's a key moment in the alley when she's about to jump those dudes. It's clearly why she's at the bar in the first place, to get into a fight so she can feel better about herself. And then he intervenes and does this very like masculine savior action,
chivalrous,
that is not, Faye doesn't stand for that shit. Like, she doesn't like it. She always fights against it, and there's this great close up of Faye when she's running away, and he's holding her hand, like her arm, in this very like run, and we get this like girlish. I'm using that word on purpose, like sort of feminine, looking up to him as she's being led by him.
Right.
Look, and I'm like, what does that mean exactly? And then they keep sexualizing her in a way that is clearly not what the scene's about. So I just want to hear your version of what does it mean. What do you think that means?
I don't know. That's a tough one because I think that there's a lot of stuff that's going on that's just like anime being a little horny.
It could be that. Yeah. Could be that.
There is some traditionalism in the exposure, even in this, which is a fairly progressive kind of like family can be made of any type of number of people. It can be even a fucking brain dog. So like the resonance of Bebop is very much so like it takes all types, but there is a sense of, even with like Jet's persona, there's this hierarchy, classic traditional hierarchy. Bebop likes to play with that expectation, but I do think that some of that stuff is he was just so dreamy.
Is that what we're supposed to take? That he's so dreamy that she's sort of taken with him?
I think it's more than that. It's more human than that. I think Gren is the type of person who's seen so much of life and has experienced so much trauma that other people who have had trauma done to them immediately kind of see it. And he immediately sees it. And he's like, this is what you are. This is what I am. And we're all in it together kind of thing. So he's a safe space for anyone who is unfortunately tragic. I think there's that element of it. So it's not just like beautiful eyes and sweet ass hips. It's like he's a person who seems like you're a real one.
Yeah. No, I think they use those visuals to make it more ambiguity actually out of it. Because like I think that experience of like, oh, you get who I am, I get who you are, is not always a romantic experience. You know, like it's often done in romance, but it's not only that. It's also like just like you can have a really great friendship that pops up and springs into being on that impulse of like,
yeah.
So, and I say that because I think that they're actually putting the trappings of a romance story for the purpose of stripping it away.
Of stripping it away and taking it away, yeah.
And I think actually it makes it more intimate than it would have been for the beginning of their actual connection to be Faye allowing this guy to play a romantic interest for a few minutes.
She's kind of allowing it to happen and trying to doctor the situation to her benefit, which is always what Faye does.
That's what she's always doing.
But also I think she actually does, like she's looking at his photos and until the vicious beat occurs.
That's right.
She's actually like, I like talking to this guy.
That's right.
And I don't think I think that there is a little bit of just the normal like romance expectations, but I think that even for Faye, it's beyond sex. It's more
Definitely.
of a person to person. That's why I think that like Gren is so on point when he like fucking just calls it out of nowhere. He's like, you're this, I'm this. This is how it goes. Because he's right.
He's absolutely right. The sticking up for her is also, we can't underestimate the power of that for her, because like, does anyone ever stick up for Faye? Probably not. I mean, in part because Faye's always getting into trouble.
I think
but like,
yeah,
you know,
she
just
would be
that's a powerful
lot more
thing.
lenient to him than anyone else, because that doesn't happen for her. So
yeah, it just makes me, again, I really enjoy about Cowboy Bebop how it traverses traditional versions of the roles when it needs to, and then completely throws them by the wayside when it needs to. Like it's not, it's very fluid in a way that it feels very authentic to me. You know, like for a brief moment there, she is sort of a girl in awe of this guy, you know? And then
even if she's trying to play the role of that, you get the sense that it might be there.
There's something real to it. Definitely. I don't think that Faye would be in that situation if there wasn't something to it.
I think she would just go find another bar and beat some other dude
Agreed. Or beat him up, you know? Did you want to talk more about the trans stuff?
Yes, a little bit.
Okay, great.
So I wanted to start this conversation because I think this is all intentional. So Callisto.
Okay.
Do you know anything about Callisto?
I mean, I know the video game Callisto Protocol.
It's an actual moon
Yes.
of Jupiter. So kudos to you Bebop for making Jupiter Jazz related to Jupiter. Okay, here's where it gets next level. So what's that myth about? Well, they found a way to make it all work, which is that let me paint that Greek mythological kind of glance that I did. Callisto was a nymph, right?
Mhm.
Who followed Artemis, or Diana in the Romans version of it, pantheon, the queen of the nymphs. And they're all kind of connected classically to virginity and being chaste. And Callisto was the one that got seduced by Zeus, or who either seduced Zeus, and it depends. There's like 18 versions of the story.
Right.
Another very popular one is that Zeus would do this all the time. He would transform into Artemis, who is kind of like the sapphic
the hunter
lover.
god, right?
She's queen of the nymphs in this occasion, and had sex with her. And then she gets pregnant. And then if you look at the Roman mythology, Zeus is equivalent to ... Jupiter.
That's cool.
So Hera and Juno, the wife of Zeus / Jupiter, finds that like this woman who cannot be pregnant gets pregnant. So it's it's Zeus again, this motherfucker. And or in other tales, Artemis saw that Callisto was pregnant, probably again not her fault, and turns her into a bear and forced to live amongst the stars. That's where we get Ursula Major, which is the great bear in the sky, which we often in Northern American call we lopped off the neck and the long headpiece and the part of the body, and we call that the Big Dipper. Point is, other versions, there's even more traumatic things going on where Artemis hunts the bear. And that's where we get that thing where it's like, what if like I shapeshifted a woman into a deer or into a bear or whatever, and then the hunter comes along and kills their person they love. Mm-hmm. So what do we got? We got major themes involved with this myth: trauma, displaced blame, transformation, and even false identity.
That's interesting.
So
and the fairy connection, because they keep making that connection
with the nymphs. Like she at one point is like, don't you know I'm already a fairy?
Right.
So what we learn, I think, is true of all these people. Trauma is just a part of life. It's kind of like what we're talking about. Often you rely on others. It's the conversation they have, Gren and Faye has, about being reliant or being self-sufficient. Or if you're alone all the time, in case of Faye, you learn to displace others, to blame them often. You become something that can't possibly be harmed by someone. And then by doing so, in all these cases, even Jets, even Spikes, you can actually harm others in a fashion. So you transform into something else, and that allows you to either help others, or you transform into something else, and that allows you to hurt people in a particular fashion. And I like this session because Faye, Spike, and Jet's transformation in just this part one are all based on inaction. In the case of Faye, learning the kindness and complex story of Gren, that kind of stays her hand from killing him, because she knows he's related to Vicious. With Spike, learning that Lynn, who's a good friend, is willing to park everything for loyalty to the van, stays his hand from shooting Vicious or Lynn. And Jet, informed by a sense of pride and being hurt by Spike, doesn't try to help him or try to reach out to help his own family. So they choose not to do something this episode.
They choose inaction.
And that's what's great, like we're talking about in terms of like, it's tit for tat with Cowboy Bebop. An act of cowardice can be an inaction.
Mm-hmm.
Just as much as it can be an action.
Yeah.
Just as a great act of strength can be an inaction.
Right.
So I love that.
Yeah, that was
cool.
I
think that's what they're setting up. All this stuff also doesn't have a punchline, because we're going to cover part 2.
Because 2 parts. Yeah. Maybe we can save some of the trans stuff for part 2, because that's when we get more explanation about Gren. Because I was reading a thread about this and trying to figure out like what is the most genuine way to express what the show is saying about his identity in particular. He says the phrase, "I am neither,"
non-binary.
You're right. So that's, I think, what we have to accept, how he self-identifies and presents as masculine for the most
He
part.
presents pretty masculine.
Yeah. So that's all. Just want to be clear about that. And we can actually get into the weeds of it next time.
Yeah, next time, let's do this part 2 of the jazz, baby.
We get some soft vicious. Soft vicious. Can you
Soft
imagine?
vicious.
Ooh, get
It's
ready.
like, what? Because I always had this question: why did he go buy a bird? Did he need like?
Yeah, what's the bird doing?
What's the bird
emotionally?
up to?
Yeah.
Does he cry
What's
with
the
that bird? He's like, "Bird, I need to tell you something. My best friend Spike left me."
And the bird's just like,
bird.
oh. The bird's like,
squawk.
The bird takes his antifreeze and flees.
It's like, let's kill them all. Let's kill them all.
You never see the bird's whole arc, but he's stealing from the safe all the
Yeah,
time.
he is a genuine freak. More about Bebop and that bird
Next
in
time.
1 month's time. And now this is the part of the podcast where we nod at each other.
Yep.
We shake our hands and we never speak until the microphones are back on.